The next topic that I want to discuss are components. So let me create a heading for that. Components require more than one HTML tag in order to construct them. We could create lists and we could also create sublists using HTML. So in order to create a list, we're not just using one tag, we are using a combination of at least two tags in order to create our list. So let's take a look at an unordered list. So we use a parent element of a UL, and then inside of that parent element, we create LIs. So UL is short for unordered list, and LI is short for list item. And then inside of here, we could put our content like apples, and then I could clone this over a few times. In our next list item, we could set this to grapes. The next one will be tea, and the last one will be juice. And as you can see, it creates an unordered list. We have 4 items over here, and they are prefixed with a little bullet. In addition to that, we can also create sublists. So before I close out this LI over here, I want to add in another list to specify which type of teas I am looking for. So I'm going to create a line break over here and just repeat this process of creating a UL, and inside of there, I'll create some LIs. In this one, it will be for black tea, and then the next one will be for green tea. And now I have created a sublist within my list of groceries. Visually, by default, I have a bulleted list, apples, grapes, tea, and juice. And then under tea, you can see that there's more indentation, and now I have open bullets over here that indicate black tea and green tea. In addition to unordered list, I could generate an ordered list by switching the parent element from UL to OL. By doing that, the list now changes from a bulleted list to a numbered list. So if we take a look at our list again, we can see that apples, grapes, tea, and juice are prefixed with a number now. Apples is 1, grapes is 2, tea is 3, juice is 4. Another component that we could build in HTML is the table. So it starts off with a table element. This is the parent of our table. Then we follow it up with a TR, short for table row. Inside the table row, we're either going to put table headers or table data. Table headers are the names of either the columns or rows that you're about to put data into, and table data is the actual data inside of the spreadsheet that we're creating here. So we're going to create a very simple budget spreadsheet using the table. Inside of this table row, we'll start off with a TH, short for table header. And inside of here, we're going to put in the value of month. This is the title of this column. I'm going to create another table header, and I'm going to put spent in here. So we'll list out months, and we'll list out the amount of money that was spent. One thing I want to add over here is that right now, it just looks like 2 words that are next to each other. So let's add in a border attribute and set it to 1 so that we can actually see the borders of each cell inside of our spreadsheet. So now that I have the table head all established, I want to start adding some data. So what I'm going to do is repeat this pattern. I start off with establishing the table row, and then inside that table row, instead of using a table head element, I'm going to use a table data element, the TD. So for the first column, I need to indicate a month. So I'll write in January, and then I'll create another table data cell. And in this case, I'm going to spend 10,000. If I want another row of data, I just follow this pattern. So here's another table row, and inside of there, I will create another TD. This is for another month. So we're going to put in the value of February. And in this month, we spent 8,000. And as you can see, I'm generating a spreadsheet that has 2 columns and 3 rows if you include the table headings, the column headings. If I want to establish another column, all I need to do is add in one more value to each one of these table rows. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to create another column. I'm going to start off with the table head, and inside of here, I'm going to put in the word saved. So how much money did we save each month? So as you can see, that's created an empty space inside of our table. So we can go into each subsequent row and start adding in more data. So here is a TD, and we're going to say for the first month that we saved 1,500, and for February, we saved 2,000. And as you can see over here inside of our table, that's filled out the table. So let's clean this up a little bit. That looks fine. And now that I have this, I'm just going to bring this down below. One thing I want to call out here is that all of this code that I'm writing is inside this body tag. So the body tag is starting up in line 6 and going all the way down here to line 88. All the HTML elements that I am writing right now is going inside of this body tag. While we're on the topic of components, we could group any elements that we want together by using containers. So typically on a web page, you will have the top of the web page, and that will go inside of a box called header. After that, you could create another box for the main content of your web page, and you could put that in a box called main. And then typically you will have the bottom of the page. This is where you will put quick links and social media links and contact information for a website, and all that content that goes into the bottom of the page usually goes into a box called footer. Head, main, and footer are all boxes, and inside of there we could create even more boxes. Things that you'll typically see inside of the header are a logo and a navigation. So we'll talk about images in a little bit. For now, we could just put a paragraph and write the word header in here, and we could follow that up with another box which will contain our navigation. So for now, we'll just put in a paragraph over here that says navigation. Inside the main box, we could create other boxes that are pretty interchangeable, such as section and article. These can go inside of each other, they can go next to each other, however you want to work with these. For now, I'm just going to put in paragraphs that identify each one of these things. So here's a paragraph that indicates that we're inside of main. Here's a paragraph that indicates that we are inside of section. Here's a paragraph that indicates that we are inside of article, and we'll do the same thing for the footer. If we look at our preview, we can see that we have paragraphs: header, navigation, main, section, article, and footer. And these paragraphs don't look any different than the paragraphs that we have down below. By default, just by creating these boxes, we're not changing the visual display of these elements at all. That will come into play when we start talking about JavaScript, when we start talking about CSS. For example, I could take the header element and give it a background color. And then all of the elements, that paragraph, the nav, and then the paragraph inside of nav will all share that background color because they're all inside the header box. The last one that I want to discuss is a general purpose use container. The first container that we had to work with was the div. But now in HTML5, we have all of these additional boxes that we have names for that have very specific sections that we're expecting them to show up in our code. Things like header goes on the top, footer goes on the bottom, main goes in the middle. For anything that doesn't fit any of those specific use cases, you can always revert to a div in order to create groups of elements. Okay, so let's format this and put this on the bottom of our page. Let's start off with a HR. Select all this, cut it, and bring it to the bottom. So as we take a look through our page, we have the page's title. We have the text section, which talks about all of our text elements. Then we have a little section for components, where we could see an example of a table as well as a list that contains a sub list. And on the bottom over here, we have a bunch of containers that we can use, starting from head, going all the way down to footer. Let's make sure that we save our page.